Hi everybody. This morning I want to continue on from what I talked about on Tuesday, and that was the vestibular system. So a lot of people commented or reached out and said I had no idea that the vestibular system had such an impact on my child's ability to learn, read, focus, and so forth. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into that in terms of how the vestibular system will impact left and right brain hemisphere communication. So if you've been following me for a while, in the past I've talked about how the right brain develops first. Dyslexia is usually the result of right brain dominance, and more than, all of us have a certain side of the brain that is more dominant or that we lean to. But when there's an overdevelopment, then we end up with an imbalance. So it's the difference between a dominance versus an imbalance. And a lot of kids with dyslexia, for example, have a underdeveloped left brain, which is where the language center is and where fluent readers read from. Whereas more typically kids with ADHD, it's the opposite. So, and all these different disorders, there tends to be an overdevelopment on one side and underdevelopment on the other. So how does all of this tie into vestibular function and balance and so forth? So basically, good vestibular development is what is key for good communication between the left and the right brain hemisphere, and I'm going to get into that today. So basically the way it works is that if there is development and adequate movement and so forth, there's going to be good development, and the corpus callosum, which joins the left and right brain hemisphere, is going to be nice and thick and going to allow communication to occur because it basically acts as an information superhighway. And what this means, therefore, is that your child is better able to efficiently use their brain to learn, to process, to read, to retain, to focus, all of that stuff we want our kids to be able to do. And so what's really important, as I mentioned last time, is that vestibular system operates in conjunction with the visual and auditory system, right? Last time I talked about the vestibular system is on the bottom of that learning pyramid, and it's basically a 3-part process. So vestibular here, interlinked with motor, and then we have the auditory and visual at the top. But these cannot function well if this foundation on the bottom is weak. So again, the vestibular system is the CEO of the brain, or think of it as a CEO of a company. And it is what sends signals to the various departments in that company. And those departments in the brain, if you will, are things like the visual system, the auditory system, proprioception, gross and fine motor skills, and all of that type of stuff. And the vestibular sends info to the sensory system and then sends that info to the correct spot. That is, if everything is working correctly. If it is weak, then these sensory systems are compromised and information is sent to the wrong spot, and that's where we're going to have information breakdown. So just to put this, I know last time I mentioned the vestibular system is the first system to develop in utero, but keep in mind that doesn't mean it's fully developed or optimally developed. And whenever a child is a baby, they really don't need their sensory or their vestibular system to be well developed until they start moving, until they start having to do things like crawling, walking, standing, all of that. All of a sudden, the vestibular system becomes very, very important, right? And so it is these milestones like crawling, like walking, like standing, which seems so trivial, that are very, very, very important. And studies have actually found, numerous studies have actually found that there is a very direct link between the development, how well developed the vestibular system is, and basically advanced cognition. So if the vestibular system linked with those motor skills, because they're tied together, are really well developed, then there's going to be a much higher likelihood of advanced cognition. And this is in fact why in homes for the aged and long-term care facilities and so forth, that they are now working on gross motor skills, fine motor skills, as well as vestibular function. And vestibular function, by the way, is one of the biggest reasons why the elderly fall and break their hips. And they know that once they start improving this function, all of a sudden there are a lot less falls. And we see this with kids who have dyspraxia, right? They're more prone to injury. And one of those reasons is, yes, they have poor motor skills, but at the base of that triangle, what needs to be addressed first before anything else, before the primitive reflexes, is creating a strong, or developing a strong vestibular system. So we tend to think of the vestibular system as this invisible apparatus in the middle ear, which certainly it is, but also it's part of the motor system and helps to detect gravity and movement and so forth, and to be able to connect and operate properly in our environment, in our world. And it continues to develop and operate and be maintained through diverse physical stimulation. And why I'm saying that is it's not just a case of creating a strong vestibular system and then we're good. It's not like, I don't know, it has to be maintained. So that is why with the elderly, who tend to become less mobile for various reasons, then they will become more vulnerable to falls and so forth, particularly if they get out of shape, and also why there is that link to cognitive decline. So huge links, lots of research behind this and so forth. So bottom line is stimulation, both motor and other as well, is what builds connections in the brain for this higher learning and helps to develop that vestibular system. So in a nutshell, brain balance, having those two hemispheres, making sure that our children are reading from the left brain, or that they have that impulse control and so forth, and all of that stuff that is so important to being able to function well, is really the foundation, is vestibular system. Is that it? No, that's definitely not all that we need to do. So if you're looking for an exercise that you can do to help improve that with your child, the number one thing you can start doing today in your living room is have your child do Supermans to help them develop their core muscles. That is 100% hands down the best place to start. So if you're looking for other exercises or information, do grab my free starter kit, the Laser Focus Learner. I will put that in the comments below. And if you want to book a free clarity call because you're interested in my 6-month programs, don't hesitate to reach out. You can check out where to book that by going to my website into contacts. Okay, thank you everybody. Until next time.